Okay, we're going to go on to the final session. You may be filling in feedback forms, but also please take part in and listen to our final session here, which takes us up to the close of this conference. So if you can multitask, because I know everyone here will, that would be excellent. But on that note, we're moving on to our final session. And our final session isn't meant to be an end point, as in it's all the finish, the end of things. It's a matter of thinking, where do we go from here? And what do we think about it? And on that note, we have Generation 3D. So can I ask you to take us on with that, please?
Sure. Hi, my name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm an editor at Screen International, which is one of the partners involved in the conference. So a big thank you to Carrie and James and everybody here for letting us be a part of this. It's been a great few days. We're going to talk about a survey that Ravensbourne, specifically, let me get their names right, Dr. Lizzie Jackson and Katie Fung from Ravensbourne have worked with Film Club, which is an educational charity, to come up with this pretty fascinating survey of young people's viewing habits with 3D. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to keep it really brief. I know everybody wants to break and have a drink and clear your head of all these 3D ideas. So we'll run through it fairly quickly. I just wanted to start by saying what Film Club is. It was started in 2007 and 2008. It's a film charity. It's an entertainment and education charity, basically, that has about 7,000 schools across the UK participating. And I think a quarter of a million young people are connected to Film Club. So it's film enthusiasts. And Rebecca here, for the last session, is a sort of guinea pig representing the whole generation. Speaking of them, is a member of 2 years at your school? 3 years, and then a year as an ambassador type. So they watch every week, most of them, classic films and new films, and not usually in 3D, because as you can imagine, our old schools, not everybody has a 3D projector, they don't really have the equipment to do that, but Tom from Film Club was telling me that they can often get people to a cinema, get some schools together to go to a cinema. They're going to have an outing for Street Dance to this week, I think. So they do sometimes deal in 3D projection, but it's more about getting educated in film. So, because Film Club has access to these 250,000 really engaged filmgoers in the UK, young filmgoers, they decided, Ravensbourne wanted to ask them about the viewing habits. So there are about just over 400 students participated in the survey, and it was anonymous. There were 413 to be exact. Most of them did a survey online. And so I'm just going to go through a few of the results and then have Rebecca, you can explain the youth of today to us. There were 2 age groups that were broken down from ages 6 to 11 and then from ages 12 to 19. And the reason for that split is where the BBFC cutoff is. And the questions are about how and where they viewed 3D, if that was only in the cinema or at home also, what they like and dislike about 3D, value for money, and what kind of content specifically works well in 3D for young people. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions. And the first one was having to do with how often do children and young people go to watch 3D films at the cinema? And the results were, for the under 12s, it was 18.5% go once a month to see a 3D film at the cinema. 30% go once every 2 to 3 months, which is pretty high rates, I think we'll all agree. And for the 12 to 19-year-olds, it was 29% going once a month, 35% going every 2 to 3 months. So how would you think that fits in with your own? Do you go once a month to see a 3D film?
Yeah, I think it averages out probably once every month and a half I go and see a 3D film. So
okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And just for reference, how often would you go to the cinema in general?
Anyway, I go probably once a fortnight.
Okay. Great. The second topic was how many people had a 3D TV that they could access at home, or maybe a games device that they could watch 3D on. And of all the age groups surveyed, 11% had a 3D capable TV at home. 28% had game consoles that they could play 3D films on. So do you have one at home?
Or? No, I don't have a 3D TV at home. I think a lot of the game consoles will come in with the Nintendo 3DS, because that's definitely a big appeal for especially younger children. So I think that'd be where that figure comes from.
Okay. So the finding there obviously is that there is this emerging market, and I think it's going to only, as we were saying with the last panel, get better and bigger as the years, and cheaper. And once things are cheaper, they're more ubiquitous. The third question to the survey was about feeling uncomfortable watching a 3D film. And this was fairly interesting because of the kids from age 6 to 12, 16% said they had had some discomfort. Of the over 12s, 27% said they had had some discomfort. So the researchers here are saying they want to examine further whether that might have something to do with biology, people's minds and eyes still developing. Just anecdotally, 3D glasses don't come in kids' sizes, from what I know. So if you're a small kid, that could be also part of the discomfort.
Yeah, I think the 3D glasses will especially be where most of the discomfort comes in. I suppose maybe if it's like fast action, maybe it could be sort of blurred, or it could like maybe give them a headache while they're watching it. But also I think some discomfort might have been sort of if you already wear glasses and then you have to wear 3D glasses over them. I think that would be that would cause a lot of discomfort for especially maybe people who have to wear glasses all the time. They can't take them off to watch a 3D film with the glasses.
Yeah, I sometimes get headaches. But do your friends remark on the glasses? You sort of said before that the glasses aren't really a problem.
No, I personally don't find them a problem, but I think if you wear glasses all the time when you go to the cinema, they can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah.
So the next topic was what's important when watching a 3D film. And a little bit scarily, in fact, the under 12 said they liked scary films. I don't know who is making their 6-year-olds watch scary films, but they like scary films, superheroes, films involving magic and animation. For the 12 to 19-year-olds, they liked action, animation, and sci-fi. And they were saying they also prefer 3D over 2D in that age range, which is exactly what you were saying before.
I think action and sci-fi sort of do go hand in hand really well with 3D. So, and I think for the younger children, the sort of animated and the magical films will sort of, it'll be easier for them to feel a part of the film if it's in 3D. So.
Yes, exactly, just kind of in that world, fantasy world. Have you ever personally chosen not to see a film in 3D and chosen just to see it in 2D because you didn't think the 3D part of it would be worth it?
No, I think 3D is, well, it depends what film, but I think most of the time 3D is worth the extra money you pay for it. But again, it's the genre. If it's a film that you know is good, would you want to risk maybe sort of being disappointed if you watch it in 3D and the 3D doesn't add to the effect of it?
Okay, interesting. I should also note that these genres of films that kids were attracted to in watching 3D really syncs up with a BBC study that was done for BBC children's programming in 2009 about how young people want to connect with a virtual world. So, with this kind of mirroring the same findings of the BBC, it seems like these kind of talking points could have an impact on how films are developed for young people and how they're produced. So maybe more action, more sci-fi for that age level. The next question is, do children and young people think 3D is worth paying extra for? And it seems that all age groups surveyed said they are willing to pay extra. You might want to also consider sometimes this is mom and dad's money that is paying the extra. But overall, everybody surveyed said that they would pay an extra £2 is the median. So clearly some people thought they would pay a lot more, so maybe some thought no extra money, not that much more extra money.
Yeah, I think
do you pay with your own money?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think £2 is usually the added extra that you do pay. And I think 3D is, if you want to see 3D, then you will, and therefore you're willing to pay the extra money. So. Yeah.
But can you see a time in the future, maybe if 50% or 75% of movies are in 3D, shouldn't they just be normal price? Do you think the less rare they become, the more you don't want to pay extra? I think the less
rare they become, it becomes sort of expected for the price to be that £2 extra. You won't then think of it as being an extra £2. You'll think of it as the price of a cinema ticket as they become more popular. So
exhibitors might be very happy to hear that. So clearly everybody in the survey said that it was becoming a preference for this generation to see it in 3D. They're willing to pay extra. That's an economic driver for that. I think the final question that was asked is just about what people liked about 3D films and disliked. But I don't really have that many examples of dislikes, which is good news. But the likes are just that it feels very modern, and it feels sort of fitting into modern life and your age group and how you game and how you text, and 3D just seems part of that. Would you say that's?
Yeah, absolutely. 3D is definitely becoming sort of part of what you expect from, you know, games consoles. And I think usually if there's a new games console coming out or a new film coming out, you'll sort of almost expect it to be in 3D, because that is the new, it's the new thing. It's like what is coming out, it is 3D now. So I think if it came out and was just in 2D, you think, well, did they not have a big enough budget? Was there a reason for it not being able to be in 3D? Because it's sort of expected now that it should be in 3D.
Interesting. And it's also, people said they really liked they felt like they're in the film. So it's not just an audience versus a spectator watching something. It's, you feel immersed in the whole experience. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of going to a 3D movie, so you feel like you're more involved with the characters, and you can relate to it better, because you can imagine yourself maybe not being in the movie, but you're just sort of a part of it. It's not just it's not just you watching in the film and then the characters and the scenarios happening on the screen. You know, it's all happening around you, so you're like involved, and it's you that's sort of participating in the film rather than you just watching the film.
Right. People also said they liked these sort of set pieces, or, you know, things flying out at you, and we've been talking all day, like, is there going to be more of that extreme 3D, or do we want it more subtle? You're saying, I think in the action sequences especially, that you do like
I think
that sense of it's really different, that it's coming out at you.
I think extreme 3D is really important for you to notice it, because maybe in some films that are in 3D, you do notice the 3D effect, but it's not as powerful. You know, maybe 2D and 3D wouldn't be such a massive difference if it wasn't for objects sort of coming at you and you sort of, you know, it being around you. I think that's definitely a big part of what people want from 3D.
So that's some of the highlights of the survey. I was going to see if anybody has any more questions for poor Rebecca, who's been in the hot seat all afternoon. But does anybody have any questions, or are there any questions for the researchers from Ravensbourne? No? Okay, well, what we're going to do is show in just a minute some of the verbatim comments that were part of the survey. And you'll see that these are warts and all. There's a lot of spelling mistakes. So you need to talk to your friends about their spelling. But I think, you know, maybe doesn't show a lot for grammar, but it shows a real love for cinema and a real love for 3D. And I think that's a great place to sort of wrap things up for a conference, is the next generation and some positive energy with 3D viewership. So thank you to Rebecca, and I'm going to turn it back over.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Rebecca. Before we run the clips that has just been mentioned by Wendy, I just want to do a very quick sort of wrap up of the whole thing, which is completely absurd, because there's no way you could really wrap up something which is as lively and energized a debate as our reflections and our way our industry in all its diversity is looking at and developing 3D, and how we collectively feel about those developments. So I'm not even going to try to. But what I am going to do is just say a few thanks to people who have made these last 2 days really good. We've had some excellent speakers, and we know who they are. But there's also some other heroes here who haven't been speakers, right at the back, without whom we wouldn't have had a projection, we wouldn't have had sound, we wouldn't have had people dealing with the issues when laptops and other things failed. Andy, Sam, and Kevin, who've really kept this whole thing underpinned and running. So thank you very much, guys. We've got, as I mentioned this morning, a large number of Ravensbourne students who've done a huge amount of work to make this event happen. And again, grateful to them, hoping to see them back at future events if they're not already out in industry. We've got two people who've worked very hard. You've occasionally seen them, Carrie Kerry Wootton and James Uren, and they have worked immensely hard. And if they're not in this room now, it means that one of them is probably drinking brandy and the other's probably eating cake to bring up the sugar levels. And again, enormously grateful to Skillset for their whole underpinning of this venture and our desire to continue that, and there is no better place to be. But who really, above all, should we thank after all of this? The people we should really thank are yourselves for coming to this event, for being at this event and making this event what it is. And really the benefit of that is what you will do with this in the next few days and weeks, starting with what you do and what you say when you have a drink outside. So thank you all, and please applaud yourselves. And I just add, please fill in those feedback forms. And on that note, okay, we can bring the lights up. We can look at these quotations and some really good stuff there, and then drift out and have a drink out there. So again, many, many thanks.